Your daily white bread may be damaging your health, and the worst part is that most people eat it every single day, thinking it's harmless. The soft texture, the clean white color, the enriched labels, they're not there for your health. They're there for shelf life, profit, and convenience. Many popular white breads contain additives and processing shortcuts that other countries don't allow. I've gone through the labels, the research, and the safety data to uncover what's really inside them. In this video, I'll break down 8 white breads you must avoid, 3 better alternatives you can switch to, and how to spot bad white bread before you buy it. Some of these breads are in almost every grocery store. By the end, you'll know exactly what to stop eating and what to choose instead. Let's get started. White bread to avoid 8. Warburton's Medium White. Warburton's Medium White is one of the most familiar loaves in the UK. It's the bread people buy without thinking, for toast in the morning, sandwiches at lunch, and quick meals in the evening. Because it's so common and so trusted, most people never stop to question what it's actually doing for their health. The first issue is that this bread is made from refined white flour. During processing, much of the grain's natural fiber is removed. Fiber matters because it slows digestion and helps you feel full for longer. Without it, white bread breaks down quickly in the body, acting more like sugar than a whole food. That's why many people feel hungry again not long after eating it. To keep the bread soft and fresh for longer, it's also produced in a way that prioritizes shelf life over nutrition. This makes it easy to eat multiple slices without feeling satisfied, which can quietly lead to higher calorie intake over time, especially for families who eat white bread every day. This doesn't mean eating this bread once in a while is dangerous. The problem is when it becomes a daily staple. Over time, relying on low-fiber white bread can crowd out better options that support steadier energy levels and digestion. What puts this loaf on the list isn't that it's extreme, it's that it's ordinary. It's the kind of bread people eat most often, and that's exactly where small nutritional compromises start to matter. If this felt uncomfortably familiar, the next white bread will be even more revealing. White bread to avoid. 7. Hovis Soft White. Hovis Soft White is widely eaten in the UK, but from a health perspective, it has several weaknesses that make it a poor, everyday choice. First, it is made from refined white flour, which means most of the grain's natural fiber has been removed during processing. According to UK dietary guidance, fiber is important for digestive health and for helping control blood sugar levels. White bread contains significantly less fiber than wholemeal or whole grain bread, which is why the NHS generally recommends choosing higher fiber breads instead. Second, this bread is classified as a highly processed food. It is produced to stay soft for long periods and to remain stable on supermarket shelves. Highly processed breads tend to be easier to overconsume and provide fewer protective nutrients than breads made with less processing. Research on ultra-processed foods has linked frequent consumption to poorer overall diet quality. Third, because it is low in fiber and digests quickly, Hovis Soft White does not keep you full for very long. This can lead to increased hunger soon after eating, making it easier to snack more later in the day. Over time, this pattern can contribute to excess calorie intake without people realizing it. Finally, although the bread is fortified with some vitamins and minerals, fortification does not replace the benefits of whole grains. Adding nutrients back does not recreate the natural structure of the grain or its effect on digestion and satiety. Hovis Soft White is not harmful as an occasional food. The issue is frequency. When eaten daily as a main carbohydrate source, it offers low fiber, fast digestion, and limited nutritional benefit, which is why it belongs on the avoid list. White bread to avoid. 6. Kingsmill Soft White. Kingsmill Soft White is another very common UK loaf, especially for sandwiches. From a health point of view, the main concern with this bread is how heavily processed it is compared with better bread options. This loaf is designed for long shelf life and uniform results at large scale. To achieve that, the bread relies on industrial processing that strips the grain down and rebuilds it into something very easy to eat but nutritionally thin. Compared with less processed breads, it contains far less natural fiber and fewer naturally occurring nutrients. Low fiber is a real issue here. Fiber helps slow how quickly carbohydrates are absorbed and supports healthy digestion. When fiber is missing, white bread like this is broken down quickly, which can cause rapid rises in blood. Sugar followed by drops in energy. This is why people often feel hungry again not long after eating white bread-based meals. Another concern is that highly processed white bread contributes very little beyond calories. Even when vitamins and minerals are added back, the bread still lacks the structure of whole grains that helps regulate appetite. Over time, diets built around foods like this tend to be lower in overall nutritional quality. Kingsmill soft white isn't harmful if eaten occasionally. The problem is frequency. When eaten daily as a main carbohydrate source, it becomes an easy way to consume a lot of refined carbs without enough fiber to balance them out. This is why many nutrition guidelines recommend limiting standard white bread and choosing wholemeal, whole grain, or less processed alternatives instead. And if you think this level of processing is bad, the next white bread shows how supermarket versions can push nutrition even further down the priority list. White. Bread to avoid 5. Tesco white sliced bread. Tesco's standard white sliced bread is one of the most widely bought loaves in the UK, mainly because it's cheap, convenient, and always available. From a health perspective, the biggest issue with this bread is nutritional dilution. It fills you up briefly without providing much that your body actually needs. This bread is made using refined white flour, which means the grain's natural fiber has been removed. Fiber is important for digestion, gut health, and keeping blood sugar levels steady. Without it, this bread is digested quickly and can leave you feeling hungry again soon after eating. That makes it easy to consume more calories across the day without realizing it. Another concern is that supermarket own brand white breads are designed primarily around cost efficiency. The focus is on producing large volumes at low cost, not on maximizing nutritional quality. While some vitamins and minerals are added back, this does not recreate the benefits of whole grains or make the bread nutritionally balanced. Because it's inexpensive, this bread is often eaten frequently, sometimes multiple times a day. Over time, relying on a low-fiber, fast-digesting food like this as a daily staple can crowd out better options and contribute to a diet that lacks variety and nutritional depth. Tesco white sliced bread isn't harmful as a one-off. The issue is how easily it becomes the default choice, even though it offers very limited health value compared with wholemeal or higher fiber breads. And if you think this is just a budget problem, the next white bread shows that even slightly nicer supermarket loaves don't escape the same health issues. White bread to avoid. 4. Sainsbury's white sliced bread. The main reason to avoid this bread is what it does to blood sugar. This type of white bread breaks down very quickly once eaten. When carbohydrates digest too fast, they cause a sharp rise in blood glucose. For many people, that leads to a quick burst of energy followed by a noticeable drop. Tiredness, lack of focus, or hunger returning soon after a meal. Over time, regularly eating foods that cause fast blood sugar spikes can make it harder for the body to manage glucose efficiently. This is why health guidance often advises limiting refined white carbohydrates and choosing slower digesting alternatives instead. This bread doesn't contain enough natural structure to slow digestion. Even when eaten with fillings, the bread itself contributes very little to stabilizing energy levels. That's why meals built around white bread often don't last. People feel hungry again much sooner than expected. Sainsbury's white sliced bread isn't harmful in a single sandwich. The issue is repetition. When eaten day after day, it encourages a cycle of quick energy followed by crashes, which can affect appetite and concentration over time. And the next white bread doesn't just spike blood sugar, it raises concerns for a completely different reason. White bread to avoid. 3. Asda white sliced bread. The key reason to avoid this bread is nutrient displacement. ASDA's white sliced bread takes up a lot of space in people's diets without giving much back. When a food is eaten often, it matters not just what it contains, but what it replaces. In this case, frequent consumption of white bread like this can crowd out foods that would normally provide fiber, minerals, and slower digesting carbohydrates. Meals built around this bread often look filling on the plate, but nutritionally, they're light. Because the bread itself doesn't contribute much beyond calories, people end up relying heavily on spreads, fillings, or snacks later in the day to feel satisfied. Over time, this can lead to a diet that's higher in refined carbohydrates and lower in protective nutrients. Another issue is routine. This bread is commonly used for breakfast toast and lunch sandwiches, two meals that strongly shape daily nutrition. When those meals are built on low-nutrient bread, it becomes harder to meet basic dietary recommendations for fiber and balanced energy intake, even if the rest of the meal seems reasonable. This isn't about one sandwich being bad, it's about repetition. When a low-nutrient food becomes a daily base, the overall quality of the diet slowly drops without people noticing. That's why Asda white sliced bread earns its place here. Not because it's extreme, but because it quietly replaces better choices over time. And the next white bread on the list raises concerns for an entirely different reason, especially for families with children. White bread to avoid. 2. Aldi soft medium white slice loaf. The main reason to avoid this bread is children's nutrition. This loaf is very commonly bought for families because it's affordable and mild tasting, which makes it especially popular for kids' lunches. The problem is that when children eat white bread like this regularly, it provides calories without delivering what growing bodies actually need. Children need fiber, steady energy, and nutrient-dense foods to support concentration, digestion, and healthy growth. White sliced bread like this is low in fiber and digests quickly, which means it doesn't keep children full for long. That often leads to hunger returning sooner, followed by snacking on sugary or processed foods later in the day. Another concern is habit building. Foods eaten repeatedly in childhood shape long-term preferences. When soft white bread becomes the default, children can grow accustomed to refined, low-texture foods and become less willing to eat whole grain or higher fiber options later on. This isn't about blaming parents or budgets. Aldi white sliced bread is convenient and cheap, but nutritionally it's not well suited as an everyday base for school lunches or breakfasts. Over time, relying on it too often can make it harder for children to meet basic fiber and nutrition recommendations. Quick pause here. If this breakdown is helpful, take a second to like the video and subscribe. It helps more families see information like this and make better food choices. And before you think this is as bad as it gets, the final white bread on this list raises concerns on an even bigger scale. White bread to avoid. 1. Rowan Hill Bakery bread. The biggest reason to avoid this bread is how ultra-processed it is. This loaf is engineered for maximum shelf life, consistency, and low cost. To achieve that, the bread is produced using intensive industrial processing rather than traditional bread-making methods. The result is a product that looks and tastes like bread but behaves very differently in the body compared with less processed alternatives. Ultra-processed foods are designed to be easy to eat, easy to store, and cheap to produce. The issue is that frequent consumption of ultra-processed foods has been linked in large population studies to poorer diet quality and increased health risks over time. Bread like this falls firmly into that category because it prioritizes texture and longevity over natural structure. This type of white bread is digested quickly and provides little resistance to the body's digestive process. That makes it less satisfying and more likely to be eaten in larger amounts. When this becomes a daily habit, it can quietly increase reliance on refined carbohydrates while reducing intake of foods that support digestion and long-term health. Another concern is scale. Because this bread is extremely affordable and widely available, it's often eaten often and in large quantities. That combination, ultra-processed and frequently consumed, is what puts it at the top of the avoid list. This isn't about one sandwich. It's about what happens when a highly processed product becomes a foundation food. After seeing how many popular white breads fall short nutritionally, it's natural to wonder if bread should just be avoided altogether. The answer is no. The problem isn't bread itself, it's how it's made. Some breads use better ingredients, less processing, and provide real nutritional benefits instead of just calories. Recommended bread 3, Marks & Spencer wholemeal sourdough. This bread is a better option because of how it's made, not just how it's marketed. Wholemeal sourdough differs from standard white bread in 2 important ways. First, it uses wholemeal flour, which keeps the grain intact. That means it naturally contains more fiber, which supports digestion and helps slow the release of carbohydrates into the bloodstream. Compared to white bread, it provides steadier energy and helps you feel full for longer. Second, the sourdough fermentation process matters. Traditional sourdough uses natural fermentation, which breaks down some of the starches in the bread before you even eat it. This can make the bread easier to digest for some people and reduce how sharply it affects blood sugar levels compared to standard sliced white bread. Another advantage is ingredient simplicity. Breads like this are typically made with fewer processing shortcuts and rely more on time and fermentation rather than additives to achieve texture and flavor. That puts them outside the category of ultra-processed white breads that dominate supermarket shelves. This doesn't mean you should eat unlimited amounts of it, but as a regular option, wholemeal sourdough like this offers more fiber, slower digestion, and better overall nutritional value than standard white sliced bread. Next, we'll look at a bread that improves nutrition in a different way, by focusing on seeds and grains rather than fermentation. Recommended bread 2. Biona Organic Rye Bread. This bread is a better choice because it uses rye instead of refined wheat. Rye bread is naturally higher in fiber than standard white bread, and it digests more slowly. That slower digestion helps keep blood sugar levels steadier and reduces the sharp spikes you get from white bread. Many people also find rye bread more filling, which makes it easier to eat fewer slices and still feel satisfied. Another key difference is density. Rye bread is firmer and heavier than white sliced bread, which naturally slows how quickly you eat it and how fast it breaks down in the body. This makes it a good option for people trying to manage appetite or avoid constant hunger between meals. Biona's organic rye breads are also typically made with simpler ingredients and less intensive processing than mainstream sliced white loaves. They rely on the natural properties of rye and traditional baking methods rather than heavy processing to achieve texture and shelf life. This type of bread isn't meant to mimic white bread. It tastes different, feels different, and behaves differently in the body. And that's exactly why it's a healthier alternative. If you eat bread regularly and want something that provides lasting energy and real nutritional value, rye bread like this is a strong option. Finally, the #1 recommended bread takes the simplest approach of all: real ingredients, minimal processing, and traditional baking. Recommended bread: Jason's sourdough, the Great White. Jason's The Great White is made using traditional sourdough fermentation, not industrial fast rise methods. Even though it uses white flour, the long fermentation process changes how the bread behaves in the body. Fermentation breaks down some of the starch before you eat it, which helps slow digestion and reduces sharp blood sugar spikes compared to standard sliced white bread. Another key difference is ingredient simplicity. This bread is made with a very short ingredient list: flour, water, sourdough starter, and salt. It doesn't rely on heavy processing, preservatives, or softness-enhancing shortcuts to stay edible for weeks. It's made to be eaten fresh, not stored indefinitely, because it's denser and more structured than supermarket white-sliced bread. It's also more filling. Most people naturally eat fewer slices and feel satisfied for longer, even though it's still technically white bread. This is why the Great White works as a genuine upgrade. It keeps the familiarity of white bread, taste, color, versatility, while avoiding many of the problems that make standard white loaves a poor daily choice. If you want a white bread that aligns with better health principles without switching to brown or wholemeal, this is one of the best options available in the UK. How to spot bad white bread brands. Once you know what to look for, spotting poor quality white bread becomes much easier. The first thing to pay attention to is how the bread looks and feels. Very bright white bread that is extremely soft, light, and sponge-like is usually heavily processed. If a slice compresses almost completely when you squeeze it and instantly springs back, that softness has been engineered for shelf life, not for nutrition. Next, consider how filling the bread actually is. White bread that leaves you hungry again shortly after eating is often low in fiber and digests too quickly. If you regularly eat toast or sandwiches and feel the need to snack soon after, that's a strong sign the bread isn't supporting steady energy levels. Better white breads tend to have more structure and keep you satisfied for longer, even with fewer slices. Another red flag is how long the bread lasts. Bread that stays soft and mold-free for a very long time is usually designed for storage rather than freshness. Traditional bread goes stale faster, and that's not a flaw, it's a sign of less processing. If a loaf feels unchanged after many days, it's worth questioning how it's been made. You should also be cautious of health-sounding marketing language. Words like enriched, soft, classic, or family favorite don't mean healthy. Enriched simply means nutrients were added back after being removed during processing. It does not mean the bread is whole, balanced, or good for regular consumption. Finally, think about how often you eat it. Even an average bread can become a problem if it's eaten every morning and every lunch. White bread that plays a daily role in your diet has a much bigger impact than foods you eat occasionally. Asking whether a bread is something you rely on, rather than just enjoy once in a while, is one of the simplest ways to judge whether it belongs in your routine. The key takeaway is this: the more a white bread is designed to be cheap, ultra-soft, and long-lasting, the less it usually does for your health. Bread that relies on time, structure, and simpler methods is almost always the better choice. If this chapter helped you see white bread differently, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people see information like this and make better everyday food choices. And if you know someone who eats white bread daily, share this with them. Small changes start with awareness.